Hey everybody, welcome back to 90 and Out. I'm your host, Timothy Holt, and this channel's all about the Christian Bible and what it means to be a Christian. So, I was looking back through the playlist on 2 Corinthians, and I noticed as I was getting ready to finalize it, I skipped over chapter 12. We did discuss it at Youth Night a couple weeks ago, but I did not record any footage of prep or the discussion with Christmas, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. Sorry about that. The conclusion is ready to get to go live, but I don't want the conclusion to go out before talking about chapter 12, because chapter 12 has some interesting points that Paul and Timothy make to the Christians at Corinth. So this video is going to be chapter 12. Sorry about the delay on that, and let's get it done. So, without further ado, when somebody says, "What's in it?" what are you going to do? Well, I hope you pick it up and read it for yourself. Paul and Timothy writing, 2 Corinthians chapter 12. It is doubtless not profitable for me to boast. I will come to visions and revelations of the Lord. I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago, whether in the body I do not know, or whether out of the body, I don't know. God knows. For such a one was caught up to the third heaven. And I know such a man, whether in the body or out of the body, I do not know, God knows, how he was caught up into paradise, and heard inexpressible words, which it is not lawful for a man to utter. Of such a one I will boast, yet of myself I will not boast, except in my infirmities. For though I might desire to boast, I will not be a fool, for I will speak the truth. But I refrain lest any one should think of me above what he sees me to be, or hears from me, and lest I should be exalted above measure by the abundance of the revelations. A thorn in my flesh was given to me, a messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I be exalted above measure. Concerning this thing I pleaded with the Lord 3 times, that it might depart from me. And he said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I most gladly will rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in needs, in persecutions, in distress, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. I have become a fool in boasting. You have compelled me, for I ought to have been commended by you. For in nothing was I behind the most eminent apostles, though I am nothing. Truly, the signs of an apostle were accomplished among you with all perseverance, in signs and wonders and mighty deeds. For what is it in which you were inferior to the other churches, except that I myself was not burdensome to you? Forgive me of this wrong. Now, for the third time, I am ready to come to you, and I will not be burdensome to you, for I do not seek yours, but you. For the children ought to not lay up for the parents, but the parents for the children. And I will very gladly spend and be spent for your souls, though the more abundantly I love you, the less I am loved. But be that as it may, I did not burden you. Nevertheless, being crafty, I caught you by cunning. Did I take advantage of you by any of those whom I sent to you? I urged Titus, and sent our brother with him. Did Titus take advantage of you? Did we not walk in the same spirit? Did we not walk in the same steps? Again, do you think that we excuse ourselves to you? We speak before God and Christ. But we do all things, beloved, for your edification. For I fear lest when I come I shall not find you such as I wish, and that I shall be found by you such as you do not wish. Lest there be contentions, jealousies, outbursts of wrath, selfish ambitions, backbitings, whisperings, conceit, tumults. Lest when I come to you again, my God will humble me among you, and I shall mourn for many who have sinned before and have not repented of their uncleanness, fornication, and lewdness which they have practiced. Wow. That's all I got to say so far, right now. Wow. Paul is just laying it out for these Christians in ancient Corinth. Okay, couple of things that stand out. First of all, there is some debate on whether this guy Paul knew 14 years ago is actually Paul, and he's just talking about himself in the third person. That is not that uncommon for pastors and preachers to do that with various events in their lives. It's also not uncommon for other public speakers to do that and say, hey, I know somebody who blah, blah, blah happened to. And they're actually referring to themselves, okay? But I don't know. That's a debate we can have, both sides of that argument or discussion, in the comments. Go ahead, leave a comment, let me know what you think. I honestly don't have a strong leaning either way. But that's how he starts out this section, is he talks out about this guy who essentially died or had a near-death experience, out-of-body experience kind of thing. You can take it for what it is. Whether it's Paul talking about Paul or it's Paul talking about someone else, we're going to have that discussion. I look forward to it. However, I think the real meat and potatoes here is not the thorn in the flesh either, or the signs of the apostle, but is this second half of this chapter, okay? We're going to get to that. Real quickly, though, thorn in the flesh, there's debate on what that thorn in the flesh was. We do know that it was a temptation that caused Paul a lot of grief. However, he continually asked for God to take it away from him, take that desire, whatever it was, away, and God wouldn't. Instead, he showed grace and strength in that weakness and in that infirmity. What it was, we don't know. But that is comforting for you, for me, because we all have vices. A few years ago, I was in the school talking with the principal about one of my boys about a vice that was getting him into trouble. And the principal pointed out, we all have vices. We all have that thing that drives us, that may be harmful to us, whether that's smoking or drinking or various illicit drugs or marijuana or sex, or it's playing video games when you should be working, or it's not getting out of bed and just being lazy. Whatever the vice is, we all have one, and I find it massively comforting that God is still God in those weaknesses. He still meets us where we're at. Paul talks about his signs as an apostle. If you want a more detailed list, he goes through a more detailed list of what makes him an apostle, qualifies him as an apostle, both in Acts, I think it's chapter 18, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And then also earlier in this letter, he points out other things like being shipwrecked and all kinds of stuff happened to him. But the main focus for me is the second half of this chapter, starting in the 14th verse. Now for the third time I am ready to come to you, and I will not be burdensome to you, for I do not seek yours, but you. It reminds me of a little over a year ago when my wife and I stepped into our current position as youth pastor and director at our local church. I was asked by several people, what's your vision? What's your goal, your mission for the youth group? And my response to them was very simple. I want the people that nobody else wants. I want the hurting, the depressed. I want the outcasts. I want all of the world's rejects. I want them all, every single one. I want to pour into the teens that the world has said, you're not good enough. You suck. I want the depressed. I want the downtrodden. I want the hurting. That's my mission for our youth group, is to be a place where you can go, where any teenager can go who feels like they have nowhere else to go and they're lost. I want them to be found at 6 Points. And I get the distinct impression that Paul is talking to these Christians in ancient Corinth like his own kids. And that's how I look at our youth group. He says, for the children ought not to lay up for the parents, but the parents for the children. And then he says he loves them and he wants to pour more into them, but he's not feeling any love in return from them. He levels some pretty big accusations against them. And let me tell you, if you've hung around teenagers or people in general, you're probably going to see some correlations, because we haven't really changed in the last 2,000 years. Humans are still humans, and we still have the same problems. Look at our political landscape here in the United States. No, this is not a political video, but there is no denying that these things that Paul levels against the Christians in Corinth are taking place before our very eyes. He talks about backbiting, whispering, conceits, tumults, outbursts of wrath, violent, angry outbursts. We've been seeing that for the last year, and our teenagers are seeing that upheaval and inconsistency, the hypocrisy, jealousies, contentions, selfish ambitions. And that's what was going on then. And Paul's response to them should be our response as Christians. It's to edify others. It's to pour into them. It's to show the love of Jesus Christ. That's it. That's our entire purpose. A guy I follow online, he was responding to another person. I don't know who the lady is, but her post was that Christians only care about the unborn, but once they're born, then they don't care and they throw them away. And his response was great. I loved it. His response was, well, if you totally ignore all of the Christian-based hospitals, nonprofits, food banks, homeless shelters, battered shelters, orphanages, adoption services, thrift stores, daycares, schools, and social services, as well as individuals who are Christians throughout the United States benefiting other people, then yeah, I can see your point. Jesus told his disciples, they will know you by your love one for another. They will know you are mine by how you show love to others. And Paul is just laying it out for these Christians. And I think we can glean quite a bit from this. We can see this every day. Wherever you go, you can see violent outbursts. You can see selfish ambitions. You can see backbiting and whispering and conceits. You can see jealousy and contention. Just the other day, my teenage boys and daughters were talking, and there was some overt jealousy going on. And one of my sons said to the other one, jealousy is not a good look on you. And it was kind of funny. And the light bulb clicked on, and she was like, because he just called her out on it. But then he concludes this section with, lest when I come again, my God will humble me among you, and I shall mourn for many who have sinned before and have not repented of their uncleanness, fornication, and lewdness which they have practiced. Just let that sink in for a minute. If you've watched this video this far, just let that sink in. Uncleanness, it might be ceremonially unclean with the Levitical law, but I doubt it here based on context. I think he's talking about actions and how we treat others in an unclean fashion, unrighteous way. But if you know the ancient Greek that was used, feel free and comment. We'll have that discussion. And then fornication. Fornication is a word you don't hear a lot of in regular, everyday speech. Fornication refers to any time sex is being had of any kind outside of marriage. Usually it's unmarried people. Okay, that's fornication. Fornication is when someone who is having sex with someone they're not married to, okay, is fornication. It could be any kind of sex, not just reproductive sex. Okay, any time of sexual interaction is fornication if you're not married to the person you're having it with. Lewdness is public indecency, public exposure. Lewdness is illegal in most places, most jurisdictions in the United States. It's public nudity, or letting all your goods hang out. Is lewdness. It's being provocative. It's acting in a way to cause people to want to fornicate with you. That's lewdness. And Paul levels this against Christians. Paul levels these three accusations and the other ones against Christians. He's not writing to the general population. He's writing to people who profess to be Christians. And I'm sure that you watching this video can think right now of people you know personally or are in the public sphere that claim to be Christians, but their lives are dominated by these things. This is not becoming a Christian. An authentic Christian calls these things out for what they are, and that's sin. So, if you've stayed this long, thank you. Hit that thumbs up button, share, like, all that good stuff. Feed the algorithm. I'd love it. I'd also like to have a conversation with you. If you know anybody else who'd get benefit out of this or the playlist as we break down Paul's letter to the Corinthians, share it. By all means, share it. If you know someone who is got a thorn in their flesh, as Paul puts it, with these things, I would love to pray for them and pray for you right now. Because God is sufficient. He's awesome. And no matter what is happening in our world, no matter what is happening in our lives, He knows it all from the beginning to the end. And it's all in His hands. See, I don't have to worry about the political landscape. I don't have to worry about the day-to-day because God's got it all. And as a youth pastor, I want teens to know that. I want teens to see the truth and to have that truth exemplified through me. So, if you're hurting, if you feel like you're empty inside, if you feel like you've been rejected by everyone else, come check us out. We'd love to say hi to you and meet with you and get to know you and pour into you. As always, I'm Timothy Holt with 6 Points Church and 90 and Out. Don't take my word for any of this of this. Pick it up, read it for yourself. May God bless you.